Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! This all started in December of last year and just finished last week. So I bought a car from one of those buy here and pay here places. I love the car. It's a 2014 Mazda 5, basically the smallest minivan I've ever seen. Well, on Christmas we drove to some family for dinner and celebration, and when we went to leave, the car would not start. We checked everything and found out the horn wasn't even connected. Any fuse that wasn't absolutely needed was simply missing, and the tires were the original ones. Beyond that, we hooked it up to the computer and it read several errors, but the one getting in the way was the immobilizer. I had never known the van had one. I called AAA and set up towing, but because we were in the middle of nowhere, AAA couldn't get a tow truck to us under our membership. It was free. So we had to call a tow truck and then submit the bill to AAA after the fact. So the family let us borrow their car and the van was towed to a shop. A few days later, the shop called and told us what's wrong. I live in Texas, a single-party consent state, and I record all my calls thanks to an app on my phone. The long list of car issues isn't important. The point of this van is a basic work van, and the only issue they found stopping it from running is the immobilizer is active, and they just can't touch it without talking to the dealer. I three-way called the dealership and the shop, and we talked for nearly 17 minutes. During this call, the dealership acknowledged we were not behind, and everything should be working unless it malfunctioned. The dealership also gave permission for the shop to bypass it, and we would be reimbursed for the towing and repairs. All the shop needed to do to get the van running was bypass the immobilizer, and a couple of days later we picked up the car and paid the bill. Both bills came to just under $300 and we started calling the dealership. The first few conversations went well and the phone rep seemed interested in helping, but mostly I ended up getting tossed around from department to department and then disconnected. That went on for some time, and of course I took to Reddit to find out options. As almost always happens, Reddit users know some crazy facts and how to get stuff done. So I followed their advice and kept calling, eventually getting to a supervisor. The first supervisor said he'd get it taken care of. We ended the call. 2 more days went by and nothing was heard. So I called back, got tossed around again, and then got another manager who said, "We're not responsible for mechanical issues," and he hung up. I called back now quite annoyed and eventually got back to the same manager. I explained I have all the information and call recordings, including the repair shop three-way call. He cut me off and said, "What? Are you going to take us to court over $296.47? I don't think so, but go ahead and sue. We will win. And if that small amount is worth suing to you, you probably don't have the resources to actually sue." This of course made me quite upset. So after a justice of the peace, and I explained what happened. They gave us a small claims form and explained the process. We could fill it out and pay for a constable to serve the dealership, or fill out the paper and take it to the dealership and explain everything to a manager in person. We chose a cheaper route because the manager on the phone was right. We didn't have the money to have it served, only filed. So we transcribed the phone calls, found out how to fill out the paper, and the hardest part was finding the agent, but we again turned to Reddit and learned. We gathered the bills and all the paperwork and made our way to the dealership's payment center. I waited in line and saw the name of the manager was the same as the manager on the phone that told me to sue. I waited in line, and when it was my turn, I asked to talk to John, and he came over and sat across from me. After making introductions and confirming it's the same guy, I started to explain the situation again. As I was explaining, I saw when he recalled talking to me on the phone. He started to dismiss me, and I explained that he asked me to sue, and I'm here with all the evidence and the unfixed suit, giving him one final chance. He started to look over the papers and asked if I still had the recordings. I said yes. I could email him a copy. We sat and talked for about an hour as he read. Then I said with a slightly aggravated tone, if something isn't done today, not only am I going to head right back to the courthouse and file, but I will also tack on as much for emotional distress whatever else the clerk hinted at. The clerk was very open-mouthed with ideas, as well as sent a copy of everything to every email on the corporate website. At this point, the conversation drew the attention of a woman in a power suit who rushed over for a recap. I found out she is John's boss's boss, and she's none too happy about how far things have gone. She assured me that all will be made right and gave me her cell number and email. I gave her the papers and left. The next Monday at 8 a.m. I got a call asking if credit being applied to the account would be acceptable, and I said yes. And she explained they will credit $500 to the account as payments. The payments are only $155 every 2 weeks. I agreed and we talked for a few minutes. When I asked why it took this much just to get things done, she laughed and said it shouldn't have, and certain people are no longer employed at the company. Well, today is Wednesday and it's the day of the payment, but when I went to make the payment, it was already done. Thank you, Power Suit Lady. Okay, so this was a while ago, but bear with me. During the COVID lockdown in my home country, I was fortunate enough not to get laid off. However, I was one of those people who had to work from home 5 days a week for 8 hours a day. Now usually I'm able to stand looking at computer screen for a good few hours, as there will be breaks in between due to meetings and such. After 8 hours of looking at my computer, my eyes were pretty sore and I would spend my evening sitting outside the front of my house. I'm quite lucky that I have a really nice scenic view from my front porch. My house is on a bit of a hill, so sitting outside looking at the city and the bay while listening to the wind going through the trees and the birds singing was really therapeutic for me. After having spent 8 hours inside with limited sunlight or human contact, I live with one other person who's an essential worker at the hospital. We said about 150 words to each other the entire lockdown. Probably about 2 weeks into the lockdown, I was sitting outside admiring the sun setting over the city, and I'll admit I was zoned out as I had a couple of beers before going outside. I was just in my own little world when this woman came storming up to me on my porch. "What do you think you're doing, huh?" she asks me. Me blinking and shaking my head to get back into the world. "Oh my god, you've got to be kidding me. You're high and you're watching my children, you pervert." "What? No, I'm not high. Wait, what are your kids doing on my front lawn?" "Well, you should know they are playing, and they are having great time. You know, I was coming out to sit up here and watch them, but then you came out to watch them, so go back inside now before I call the cops." "Wait, you were going to sit on my porch?" "It's not yours, it's the public's." "No, you are on my property. Your kids are on my property. You cannot call the cops on anyone but yourself for trespassing and breaking social distancing. So please, go away." "No, they are not trespassing. They are allowed to use this area. And it's not yours. It's public. So, for the second time, get inside now before I call the police." Okay, 1. Do not yell at me again. 2. Tell your kids to get off my property. 3. Call the cops. Go on, I dare you. The woman screaming at this point, "This man is a pervert. He's come onto my property and he's watching my children. And he threatened me. Someone call the police. Help, my neighbor." A massive Highlander dude who came running out to his house to see what was going on said, "What the? Oh, hey mate, who is this person?" I answer, "Honestly, I have no clue." The entitled mother is still screaming in the background. The woman says, "He just grabbed me. This man and his friend are trying to rape me. Help! Call the police!" By now her children are all crying and she's on the ground crawling away as if I'd just thrown her off my porch. My neighbor tells me, "Dude, what have I told you about keeping yourself away from crazy witches?" I tell him, "I wish there was more of a story here, man, but I literally don't know who this woman is." She continued to scream and a few more neighbors came out to see what was happening. None of us recognized this lady and she clearly didn't live locally. The cop did, however, show up due to my neighbor's partner calling the police. The entitled mother screamed when the cops arrived and ran over to them saying, "Help me! He's tried to kill me!" The cops immediately thought something happened and that I was the instigator. Honestly, I don't blame them for doing their job, but I was scared as hell when they pulled their tasers on me. My neighbor and his partner thankfully were able to talk to the cop who came to me, so I was able to get back up on the ground. The cop asks me, "Do you know this lady?" She was still screaming in the arms of another officer with her kids crying. "No, I do not. She just came up to me on my Porsche and she started yelling at me. I don't know who the hell she is." Cop says, I see a camera near your front door. Can you pull the footage? Because otherwise I'm going to have to take you to the station to answer some questions." My neighbor says, "Well, oh, you're kidding me." The officer answers, "It's that or the station. She's making some pretty serious accusations here." I took the cop inside and it took me about 2 seconds to pull the camera footage ahead of my front porch and lawn. It showed me going outside and sitting there for about 20 minutes before the kids arrived and started playing on my lawn. And then a lady coming up to me screaming and faking everything. The cop says, "Okay, we will be back later because we will probably need to get a copy of it." I tell him, "Just get her and her kids off my property, please." Cop says, "No problem, but be careful with the drinking. It's easy at the moment to let go." The cop went back to the entitled mother and told her that she had to leave, to which she went absolutely crazy and accused the male cop of being sexist for not believing her, a real victim of assault. One of her kids then kicked the cop, and another jumped onto the hood of their car and started jumping up and down on it. When the cop's partner grabbed the kids and pulled him out of the car, the entitled mother threw a punch and then started kicking the cop when he was down, while screaming at him for assaulting her kid. Let's just say it felt pretty good seeing her getting tasered. 2 more cop cars turned up, each with 2 officers, and she got taken away, still screaming, and her kids got taken into care. I spent the rest of that night sitting near the fence with my neighbor on the other side, having some drinks and talking about what had just happened. We had to give statements about it, and I made a copy of the camera footage, and thankfully the camera angle showed the cop being assaulted and the kid jumping up and down on the car. Now, I believe they have everything they need to put her behind bars for a very long time. My daughter is in 6th grade and she turns 12 next week. She's well liked and has many friends in her class. She's really excited about her birthday and she told me she wants to have a cool birthday this year. In the past, most of her birthday parties have just been at our house with 10 to 15 people, some of her class friends and also her cousins and grandparents. She's changed a lot this year though. Middle class school and all. So anyways, I asked if she wants her birthday party to be at a new laser tag place that opened nearby, and she was really happy. She's been planning the color scheme, theme, and decorations enthusiastically, and she even made invitations online that she asked me to print out. I asked her if she wants me to print one for all the girls in her class, and she said she's inviting everyone except 2 girls. I asked why and she said she doesn't like those girls. She said no one really likes them. This bothered me, so I pressed her, asking if they have ever been unkind to her. She said no, but they have no fashion sense and they are just generally boring. I didn't like the way she was talking, so I said she has to invite them too if she's inviting literally every other girl in class. She got upset and said that I was being unfair because it's her birthday and it's supposed to be for her. Though I'd asked for a second opinion. Edit. I just wanted to add, I've met a few of my daughter's friends, and they are weirdly competitive and judgmental. I feel like my daughter has changed a lot since middle school began, and I don't know how much is because she's growing into a new phase of life and how much is because of the other people she spends time with. So yes, it's valid to not like someone because you just don't have much in common, but I don't think this is why her class doesn't like these kids. And now some comments on the post. Someone saying, word of caution. Middle schoolers being what they are, if the 2 girls come under a forced invitation to a laser tag place and are disliked by the rest of the class, you are setting them up to possibly being bullied and ganged up on. Your daughter won't keep it to herself that you are making her invite them. I can give no judgment, but would advise going back to the 10 to 12 closer friends rather than a class-wide invite if you're going to make her invite the 2 girls. ETA, wow, thank you everyone. I have a few comments on things that I keep getting sent. These all are products of my recollection of junior high, which was admittedly a bit ago. This could be a great teachable moment for OP's daughter, but it shouldn't be at the expense of these girls. Any choice needs to be made with that in mind. Canceling the party might get blamed on girls and turn passively ignoring them into active bullying behavior. On top of that, OP's daughter isn't friends with or close to these girls. That's fine and normal, especially once you get into middle school. She doesn't need to be friends with all her classmates. And during middle school is when friend groups often change to be based on shared interests rather than classroom groups, sports, clubs, anything. I was a loner quietly reading a Japanese manga in a corner. Then one day someone just saw me reading at a lunch and plopped me down with all the other manga nerds. Those friendships lasted years, and I never even shared a class with a few. I heard of parties, but as they weren't part of my group, I didn't care. With that understanding, if I received an invite, it made me think the birthday kid wanted me there. Finding out you were a forced invitation, then unwelcome, hurt more than being left out. Sometimes it works, and the kid integrates into the cool group. Most often they are bored, bullied, and asked to leave early. Lastly, the birthday party is at a laser tag place. Many people have commented on monitoring the girls during the party. In a poorly lit, very active and competitive space, that's not really possible. From being the last kids picked for a team to actively targeting them, it seemed like a poor choice. I was a victim of this in paintball and took a pellet from short range on my hand. It took weeks to stop hurting. It's not fun, from start to finish, to feel unwanted. Another commenter goes with, "Not the jerk. I don't really subscribe to the idea that at this age all kids must be invited, or all the girls, or whatnot. But in this case, I think obviously leaving out just one or two is indeed unfair. I think if this party was scaled down to say like 3 to 5 girls, it would be okay to exclude the rest, as the size and scale of the party would not be at the level of being essentially the whole class. So consider giving your daughter the choice to add those 2 girls or scale down the party to fewer friends. I do appreciate this will feel like you're kind of treating on her autonomy, but given her explanation for disliking those girls, it seems like she's just kind of subscribing to a group-think mentality against these girls for no real reasons. And she's playing a bit of a mean girl role for them too. This is an important lesson for her." A third commenter adds, "Having been one of the kids no one liked who got pity invites and at the time didn't realize they were pity invites, I'm going with you are the jerk. I get what you're trying to do, but you can't force your daughter to like kids she doesn't like, and if you make her invite them and they show up, you're setting those kids up for being ignored at best and picked on at worst. I got those invites as a kid. My mom, ever the optimist, told me to go and have fun, spend time with the kids and make friends. So I go. Sometimes I'd just be ignored and have to watch all the kids having fun together while being very obviously and deliberately excluded. Once I was at a kid's house being ignored, I went looking for a book to read to pass the time. By middle school, I realized the pity invites were pity invites and stopped going when I got them. But I haven't forgotten the ones I got and went to as an elementary school kid."
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.